So one of the most interesting parts of your career, I think, is this IFC Global Domination tournament. It was an eight-man tournament, which you don't see too many of those anymore nowadays, and there were really a lot of very, very skilled fighters in this tournament. Now, you went into this matchup thinking what? Do you have any kind of special game plan or training regimen or something that you did? How does one prepare for absolute war in an eight-man tournament?
Well, and that's kind of what I said earlier. I mean, my that's not my style. I don't go to war. My goal is to try to win as fast as possible and as smoothly as possible and take as little damage as possible. I don't want to go to war.
But
So
if you've got to fight three times, there's no avoiding it, really.
absolutely there is. Did you see my fights?
Well, yeah, I did, but I mean, if you looked at Babalu, I mean, his face looked like he was growing a second head out of his eyeball.
Right, because that's his style of fighting. Stand there and swing at people and trade punches until you win. I didn't take a single punch in my first fight, and I took very few and no clean ones in my second fight. I didn't even take any serious shots in my third fight with Babalu. It's all about your style and what you choose to do. I'm a grappler. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to try to smother you, and I'm going to try to get you to give up something to me. And if I'm on the bottom, I want to defend myself first, and attack second. And generally, the better your defense is and the better your offense is, the more those kind of blend together, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing about an MMA tournament is you can do that. If it were a kickboxing tournament or a karate tournament, it would be unavoidable. But
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Same thing with like Muay Thai. Dude, it doesn't matter if you win or lose a Muay Thai fight. You're hurt bad, unless you get a lucky knockout and finish him earlier. But yeah, I mean those fights are just brutal, man. I would never want to do that.
so, what were you thinking between fights? You have two rest periods where you can kind of get it back together. Were you trying to stay warm and loose, or were you trying to just relax and cool down, or how did you approach the tournament between your fights?
Just really looking to relax. I mean, obviously my first fight was pretty fast. It was in one round. So that fight, this is one of the other things that a lot of people don't understand about tournaments, unless you fought in one, is every time you fight, generally all you want to do is do it again right away. Because if you won a fight, you feel awesome and you want to go back and do it again. And if you just lost a fight, you generally want to go back and do it again and try to redeem yourself. Unless you're just physically beat to shit and you just can't physically do it, then yeah, you want to just get right back in there and do it again. So yeah, in a tournament like that, that's all I want to do. I win my first fight in I don't know what, 3-4 minutes. That's it. I'm excited. I'm ready to go back again. I'm watching the other fights. I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to fight next. And I'm anxious. That's all I want to do is go right back in there and do it again.
So, did you do any long-term planning when you saw the brackets? Like, okay, so if I advance in the first round, then I'm going to try to, this is my plan for the second one, or because it sounds to me like you just kind of took it, as it came. Was that the case, or?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know if they released the brackets until we got there. So I didn't know who was going to fight. I knew the other guys that were in it. And I could be wrong. I don't really remember. They may have announced it, but I don't remember. But back then, again, I didn't really care. I trained to be who I am, and I trained to fight the way I fight.
Yeah.
And I do that against anybody. So, I mean, I'm a grappler. If you're a boxer, I'm a grappler. If you're a grappler, I hope I'm a better grappler. But that's who I am. That's what I do. So it didn't really matter to me. I mean, I try to be well-rounded. I try to, I do a lot of sparring. I do a lot of stand-up work. But at the end of the day, I'm looking to take people down. I want to take you down and smother you. So
in the third round of that last fight against Sobral, you landed a knee on him. It was very, very close. He was kind of half up, half down. And it was bad timing. There was this huge schmoz going on with all the officials and the referees. So take us through that moment when you threw the knee, and then afterwards, what was going through your head as it was going down, and then once the fight resumed.
Well, he was starting to get up. I mean, that's back when knees to the head on the ground were kind of a gray area. So he was getting up. He was on his feet. I go to throw a knee right as I forget if he either put his hand down or maybe he sat down, but it was close. And the knee landed pretty hard. So, I mean, and right away he goes foul, 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 and sat back. And I didn't really think about it. I should have just kept going, but I'm not a dick. So, I mean, really, I mean, as a competitor, I should have just kept going.
Yeah.
I'm thinking and I'm listening and I know what's going on. So,
Well, I don't know. I thought it was the right thing to do. If it's that close and he really feels so bad about it, then.
Yeah, but I mean, look at today. How many people have cried foul when they didn't get fouled?
Yeah.
Guys that take a hard punch and then step back and call timeout. Like, this is a fight. You don't get to decide if a shot was illegal or not.
Right. I think it was Travis Brown at the last UFC event called timeout in the middle of the fight.
Yeah, and that really blows me away. I mean, they need to do something about that, because to me it's just ridiculous. This is a fight. There's no timeout.
Right.
Just because you think you have been wrong somehow and fouled somehow, you don't get to step back and do the whole, hand sign timeout thing. Where did that come from? Defend yourself at all times,
Yeah.
Because obviously it breaks the rhythm of the fight.
Yeah.
And so even if you step back and call timeout, it's kind of like, it's like a guy fighting a girl. There ends up being really no way to win, because either you look like a dick because you run across the ring and attack the guy when he clearly is trying to call timeout. Doesn't matter that timeout is not allowed. You look like a dick for trying to attack him in the middle of, when he's vulnerable. Or you give him a timeout and you lose your potential advantage that you should have because he's hurt and needs timeout. There's no way to win that. So there should be some kind of penalty for that. Like, if you call timeout and the referee actually, validates it and stops it, then you should lose a point automatically. You don't get to step back and call timeout. That's not a thing in a sport.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of getting at, because there was a really long break as everyone was kind of scared. It seemed like nobody really knew what to do. It's like, do we penalize them, or do we just kind of restart it, or, what's going on? And so there's this huge break. Both of you guys get to catch your breath, and I guess it's kind of like hitting the reset button because you guys got such a large break. But at the same time, Sobral's got this basketball-sized, swelling going on over his eye, so it really wasn't like hitting the reset button. So I don't know, how did you feel about it going back into the fight when they restarted it?
Well, at the time I didn't really think about it because I felt like he was hurt pretty bad. I was fresh as a daisy, so I didn't care. I'm like, let's just get going again, and I'll do it again. I'll get him hurt again and go after him. But looking back, it absolutely changed the course of the fight.
Yeah.
I was on top. I was winning. He was hurting. He was slowing down. And giving me 2 minutes to rest is meaningless. I wasn't tired. Giving him 2 minutes to rest completely reset his psyche and fitness and gave him a chance to get going again. It absolutely favored him over me. And people are always like, well, you got to rest too, but I don't need to rest. I wasn't tired.
So what is your thought on the outcome of the fight? Because he did win by decision.
Yeah, I didn't fight very well. I really felt like, he had two really hard fights going into the finals. And, I just kept thinking at any minute he's just going to quit. He's going to fall down. He's going to be done. He can't keep up what he's doing. He's too hurt. He's too tired. And so I was coasting a little bit because I just felt like any minute he's going to fold up and roll over, and just give it up. And he just never did. So I didn't fight as aggressively as I should have. But also there were definitely some circumstances in that fight that kind of helped him. Granted, the way the fight went, he won. I'm not trying to argue that. He did more than me to win that decision. But when I had him in a triangle at the end of I believe the second round, the bell rang like 11 seconds early.
Right. Yeah, that was odd.
That absolutely helped him. Getting a big break from a shot that was borderline not illegal. Again, that really helped him. I think there was one other instance that was a little wonky, but I don't remember at the time. It's been a while since I've seen that fight, but you know, I wasn't
Yeah.
really thinking about it at the time. I just felt like I was, I was pulling ahead. I was doing well, and no matter what happened, I'd be able to regain that pace and get back on top of him. So, you know,
Yeah, so for fans who want to check out that fight, make sure you go to the Fightbox YouTube channel. The whole full fight from the beginning to the end is on there, and you can make up your own minds for it. Now, fans always want to know what you thought was your best fight, or and when you've had over 100, it must be impossible to try to pick something. But if you could pick one fight where you thought like this was my moment, this is what I want to be remembered for. This was me at my absolute best. Would you be able to do that?
yeah, I think I still feel like I have never quite reached the potential as a fighter. I don't know if any fighter ever does, but I think the closest I came was my fight with Forrest in the second round of that IFC tournament.
Yeah. So take us through that fight. Obviously, a very, very hard fought bout, and you guys really went toe to toe. So, what are your memories of that fight?
It was a great fight. I feel like, as a grappler, I always have kind of felt like, more comfortable on the ground than on my feet. But in that fight, for whatever reason, man, everything was clicking. Probably because it was my second fight of the evening. I felt more comfortable, because I had already done it once.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I just felt like that was a good performance. It was as close as I've ever come to really, reaching my full potential as a fighter.
Yeah, and that was a head kick knockout
Yeah.
for the finish. So, did that kind of? I mean, you have a lot of wins by submission and just a handful by knockout. So, did that kind of catch you by surprise as well? That connected and knocked him out, or did you see that coming?
Um, a little bit of both. I mean, at that point in the fight, it was a pretty fast-paced fight, and neither one of us had thrown any kicks really. So I just kind of felt like it might catch him off guard. Uh, you know, it did.